Have you ever noticed how some people seem to have complete control over their surroundings without saying a word? They don't shout, they don't plead, they simply withdraw. And then suddenly, everything changes. The atmosphere shifts. People start asking questions, pursuing their goals and feeling. Now imagine if you were in their shoes. If you stopped reacting so quickly to everything. If you chose silence instead of automatic responses and withdrawal instead of exploding. What do you think would happen? Carl Jung would say you've just broken the biggest unconscious contract of your life. Because when you stop being constantly available, emotionally, physically, and psychologically, the world around you goes into crisis. People have become accustomed to controlling you through your reactions, impulses, and predictability. But the day you decide to disconnect, the rules of the game change completely. And those who thought they knew you discover that, in reality, they knew nothing about you. Jung wrote, "Everything that bothers us in others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves." Think about that now. When you're unavailable, who is truly desperate? Who is upset? Who is trying to provoke you into feeling the same way? This reveals far more about the other person than it does about you. And most importantly, it reveals how deeply you are being manipulated, even if you don't realize it. You constantly waste yourself on others, trying to please them, maintain peace, and avoid losing those who weren't truly there for you. With every forced yes, every rushed response, every emotional outburst, you expend a part of your energy. And in the end, what's left? Exhaustion, disappointment, and inexplicable emptiness. But I'll tell you why. Because you're too available to those who don't deserve even a moment of your silence. This video isn't about isolating yourself from the world, but about self-choice and learning what Jung called individual assignment. It is a process of acquiring integrity, authenticity, and perfection. This process begins when you realize that silence can be more powerful than 1,000 arguments. This withdrawal, if it occurs consciously and not out of a desire to escape, is an act of strength. So I ask you now, looking you straight in the eye, how much longer will you remain so easily swayed by the feelings of others? How much longer will you continue acting like a puppet every time someone touches your wound? Perhaps it's time to cut those strings, to detach yourself, to become an enigma. Because when you cease to be available, everything changes. You were raised to always be available, always attentive, always accommodating, always saying yes, even when you want to say no. From a young age, you were taught that your value lies in your constant readiness to help others. But there's a truth that perhaps no one has told you clearly. This excessive availability is not a virtue, it's a prison. As long as you continue to believe that you need to be constantly available, emotionally or physically, you will be manipulated, exhausted, and forgotten as soon as you cease to be useful. Do you know why? Because your constant presence makes you predictable. And anything predictable becomes a tool. People start using you like an emotional emergency button. They press it when they want attention, comfort, or approval, and then they ignore you. But you don't understand this because you're trapped in the illusion that your presence will force others to be there for you. But it doesn't work that way. Carl Jung spoke about humanity. We use this mask to gain acceptance, love, and appreciation. And it's precisely this mask that makes us too accessible. We say everything's fine when we feel overwhelmed. We respond to messages immediately, even when we're exhausted. We justify and defend ourselves as if we owe something to the world. But the truth is, the more we put ourselves at the center of attention, the more we distance ourselves from our own lives. Constant online presence is a subtle form of self-automation. It's a covert way to gain acceptance, avoid rejection, and try to control how others perceive you. But this control comes at a price. Your peace of mind. You expend your energy as if it were infinite, when in reality it's limited, very limited. Those who want you available all the time don't really love you. They want what you offer: approval, companionship, entertainment, and emotional support. But when you change, when you set boundaries, when you refuse to respond, those same people get angry, blame you, and say you're acting strangely. It's not that you've changed. It's that you've stopped being useful to them. And therein lies the cruelty. The more accessible you are, the less value you have to others. Because abundance becomes an emotional scapegoat. No one appreciates what doesn't need to be acquired. No one appreciates what is always there. So stop and think. Who truly deserves your time? Who deserves your attention, your presence, and your ability to listen? Or better yet, who deserves your absence? But before we answer this question, we need to understand something important. Why do we react so quickly? Why do we give in so easily? What lies behind this almost automatic impulse to react, justify, and please others? The answer lies in what Carl Jung called psychic energy. This is exactly what we will talk about in the next part. Because your energy is all you have, and if you don't learn to protect it, someone will inevitably use it against you. From a young age, you were taught to always be present, to respond quickly, to please others, and to say yes even when you wanted to say no. From a young age, you were raised to believe that your value lay in your constant availability to help others. But there's a truth that perhaps no one ever explicitly told you. This excessive presence isn't a virtue, it's a prison. As long as you continue to believe that you need to be constantly available, emotionally or physically, you will be manipulated, exhausted, and forgotten the moment you cease to be useful. Carl Jung did not see the human psyche as a machine that reacts to stimuli without consequences. Rather, he considered it an energy system, where every thought, emotion, and action consumes a portion of this valuable energy. The question is clear and direct. Do you choose where to direct your energy? Or do you let the world decide for you? Every time you act impulsively, you waste your energy, mental, sexual desire, vital energy. Remember that silly WhatsApp conversation at 11 p.m. that kept you up all night? Or that ridiculous criticism from a colleague that you defended for 2 hours, trying to prove your point? Or that message from your ex that you replied to at 3 a.m. just to show that everything's fine? Every automatic reaction drains your energy for no reason. You cling to painful memories that should have ended long ago and feed a cycle that only exists because you insist on responding. Jung stated clearly and firmly, what you resist persists. The more you react, the more you limit yourself. Emotionally exhausted people are not weak. They are simply, it was poorly managed. Do you know what happens to someone who's constantly exhausted? They become vulnerable to exploitation. And when you're vulnerable, you become easy prey. Emotional manipulators, opportunists, and those who need support notice it immediately. They realize you don't know how to manage your energy, that you overreact to everything, and that you're constantly trying to solve the world's problems, and they take advantage of it. Do you remember that friend who only shows up in times of crisis? That relative who always needs your help to solve their problems? That colleague who praises you, but only when you do their job? It's not a coincidence. They have nothing to do with you. They have something to do with you. Job. What do you offer? And why do you offer it? Because you feel you must. Because you fear disappointment. Because you believe you must be useful to gain love. Here begins the unraveling of the mystery Jung set out to reveal. A mystery that will make you reconsider all your relationships. Why do emotionally exhausted people repeatedly fall back on the same toxic patterns of behavior? The answer lies in mental economy. Jung taught that a healthy mind is one that retains energy within itself. This means being able to say no without guilt, to remain silent without cowardice, and to observe before acting. Because true power doesn't come from reacting, but from choosing the time and method of work. This only happens when you know yourself well enough to understand your own motivations. How many nights have you lain awake thinking about unresolved problems? How many hours have you spent trying to understand why someone mistreated you? This is energy that is irretrievably depleted. You are feeding energy vampires who are completely draining you without you giving them anything in return. Let's take Mariana, a 32-year-old project manager, as an example. She was constantly exhausted. She would get home at 10 p.m., answer group chats with family until midnight, help her friends with their relationship problems at 2 a.m., and wake up at 6 a.m. to go to the gym so I wouldn't gain weight. At 34, she suffered a nervous breakdown. During Jungian psychoanalytic therapy sessions, she discovered that she was spending 87% of her daily energy satisfying the demands of others. She began selectively refusing certain requests. 6 months later, she got a promotion, a healthy relationship, and time to paint, her childhood passion. The laziness she felt wasn't weakness. It was mental alarm system. Jung called it psychic energy, field of power. A controlled mindset creates a powerful presence. You walk into a room and command respect without saying a word. A disorganized mindset, on the other hand, makes you invisible, easily unsettled, and vulnerable. And the world is unforgiving to those who give up easily. Start by observing what triggers your reactions. What makes you react automatically? What throws you off balance? These are the things that drain your energy, and that's where the challenge lies. It's not about becoming cold or indifferent, but about becoming selective. One controls oneself, and here is one of Jung's greatest discoveries. When you repress your energy, you destroy it. Predictions what others impose on you. This is extremely worrying, because now we are entering a dark zone, silent manipulation. You believe you're in control, and that your reactions are the result of conscious decisions. But the truth is much darker. Most of your emotional responses are programmed, and anyone who understands this can easily manipulate you. Opportunists don't need to yell, threaten, or issue orders. They simply exploit your weaknesses, and you inevitably react. The next section will explore how these people drain your energy and why your absence completely ruins these games. Get ready to confront those who have always drained your energy, even if you haven't realized it. You think you're in control and that your reactions are a conscious choice. But the truth is much darker. Most of your emotional reactions are programmed, and anyone who understands this can easily manipulate you. That's what Carl Jung called it. Gripping, it's a psychological mechanism by which people project onto others what they don't see in themselves. But there's another side to it that many are unaware of. As others project their images onto you, you become an unconscious receiver of those images. And the more emotionally open you are, the more you become a blank slate for these projections. Think about that friend who only turns to you in times of crisis. That family member who always needs your help to solve their problems. That person who praises you excessively, but only as long as you're useful to them. None of them truly connect with you. Connect with an idea. It all depends on you, on the role you choose. And why do you choose it? Because you feel you owe something. Because you fear disappointment. Because you believe you have to be useful to earn love, need, appreciation, availability, and acceptance. The most effective manipulation methods aren't based on shouting, but on remaining silent. In an atmosphere of guilt, it shows. He should another thing. He needs it. Help him, understand him, support him, even when he's tearing you apart inside. The manipulator doesn't need to control you directly. It's enough for him to keep reacting the way you expect. But when you stop responding, when you start saying no, responding silently and walking away without explanation, his projections begin to crumble. The mask he's put on you falls away, and this completely destabilizes the person who has been living off your automatic reactions. Have you noticed how some people panic when you don't respond? When you don't explain the situation? When you simply disappear for a while? It's not because they miss you, but because your silence takes away their control. As long as you're talking, you're still in the game. But when you're silent, the rules change completely, and that throws off those who have come to trust your ability to predict your feelings. Here's the first important revelation about subtle manipulation that few understand. These people don't love you. They want your job. They crave the psychological comfort you provide by responding to their crises. They crave the validation you offer when you agree with their false beliefs. They crave the mirror you hold up so they don't have to look at themselves. Your constant presence unconsciously reassures them. You're okay. You are who you are. You don't need to change anything. But when you become unavailable, when you stop automatically validating their delusions, something devastating happens. They are forced to confront their inner emptiness. Your silence exposes the inner noise they don't want to hear. Then comes the attack, the criticism, the emotional drama. Not because you're wrong, but because you've stopped being a convenient mirror. You've eliminated the automatic validation that sustained their automatic thinking. Imagine a situation you've been in. That friend who only contacts you in times of crisis disappears when everything is going well. You're always available, always understanding, always a friend for everything. One day, you don't reply for 3 days. What's their reaction? 15 messages in a row. Are you mad at me? What happened? You've changed. This isn't genuine concern. It's panic about losing control of your emotions. Your silent absence has disrupted the usual order of things, and a disruption of the usual order is extremely unsettling. Do you notice this pattern repeating itself in your life, at work, in your family, among your friends? Do the same people always react strangely when you're alone? This isn't a personal coincidence. It's a universal psychological law. Jung explained that projections are only effective when there's someone willing to receive them. When you become Conscious psychological vessel. If you temporarily commit to other people's expectations, even though you are fully aware that they are not your own, the game changes drastically. And here comes a surprise that many didn't expect. Being inaccessible doesn't pose a personal threat, but existential threat to maintain the automatic reactions of others. You provoke a confrontation that most people avoid throughout their lives, facing themselves without the external mirror that has always confirmed their illusions. This confrontation is unbearable for those who have built their identity by denying their inner truths. Jung's great discovery about this phenomenon is happening now and will force you to reconsider all your past relationships. When you consciously distance yourself, the reaction isn't limited to individuals. It encompasses everything: collective unconscious, a group in panic. Broken families, toxic businesses, and social groups survive thanks to unconscious agreement. Let's not talk about what everyone already knows. Their silent conscience destroys these agreements as soon as they exist. Have you ever been fired from your job for not fitting in? Have you ever ended a friendship because you took it too seriously? Have you ever been accused of being cold for setting basic boundaries? It wasn't your fault. You violated the implicit social contract that keeps social structures functioning. Pretend you don't notice what is obvious to everyone. Their conscious rejection does not threaten individuals, but entire systems built on collective negation. This is the main reason for the exaggerated reactions that the feeling of unavailability provokes. It's not that you lose a valuable friend, partner, or colleague. It's that they are the ones who lose. Automatic confirmation system, the one who supported their shared dreams. His silence isn't personal, it's prophetic. This reveals truths that entire groups of people have agreed to forget in order to survive psychologically. Are you ready for the crucial question? What if all those times you felt rejected for seeing too much weren't your fault, but inevitable conflicts between your emerging consciousness and the collective systems built on a shared unconscious? What if the price of individuality wasn't losing other people, but freeing yourself from relationships that were never real? In the next section, we'll explain why silence can be the most lethal weapon of the human psyche and how it completely transforms the dynamics of your relationship with the world. Prepare to discover the power that resides within you the moment you're asked to speak. You think you're in control and that your reactions are a conscious choice, but the truth is much darker. Most of your emotional reactions are programmed, and anyone who understands this can easily manipulate you. That's what Carl Jung called it, dripping. It's the mechanism by which we project onto others what we don't see in ourselves. But there's another side that we almost never perceive. When others project their images onto you, you become an unconscious receptacle for those images. And the more emotionally open you are, the more you become a blank slate for these projections. Think about that friend who only contacts you in times of crisis. That family member who always needs your help to solve their problems. That person who praises you excessively, but only as long as you're useful to them. None of them feel a genuine connection with you. They feel a connection with you, an idea. It all depends on you, on the role you choose. And why do you choose it? Because you feel you owe something. Because you fear disappointment. Because you believe you have to be useful to earn love, need, appreciation, availability, and acceptance. The most effective manipulation tactics aren't yelling, but silence and guilt. It shows. He should another thing, he needs it. Help yourself, understand yourself, and support yourself, even when it tears you apart inside. The manipulator doesn't need to control you directly. It's enough that you continue to respond predictably. But when you stop responding, when you start saying no, or when you stay silent, or when you leave without explanation, their projections begin to crumble. The mask they've put on you falls away, and that completely destabilizes the person who has fed off your automatic reactions. Have you noticed how some people panic when you don't respond, when you don't explain the situation, when you simply disappear for a while? It's not because they miss you, but because your silence takes away their control. As long as you're talking, you're still in the game. But when you're silent, you change the rules completely. And that throws off those who have come to trust your ability to predict your feelings. Here's a surprising discovery, confirmed by recent research from Harvard University: emotional contagion. These studies show that emotionally extroverted people behave in the following ways. Human behavior. They process and transmit emotional states 73% faster than average. This explains why you might feel inexplicably exhausted after just a few conversations, or wake up anxious after a seemingly ordinary phone call. It's not just an illusion. You're unconsciously processing other people's emotional turmoil. Let's take Laura, a 38-year-old executive I worked with, as an example. Her colleague would confide in her daily during coffee breaks about her personal problems. Laura, empathetic by nature, listened attentively. The result? Sleepless nights spent ruminating on other people's crises, mounting anxiety, and a nervous breakdown at 39. When she learned to say, "I can't talk about today," her colleague stopped contacting her for 2 weeks. What's the pattern? People who are emotionally dependent on others are automatically drawn to those who are always available. This isn't personal, it's an energetic law. The turning point comes when you realize that these processes are not random. They are energy extraction systems open 24/7. Research from the London School of Economics has identified 4 classic patterns. Emotional vampires. It consumes 40% more energy, highly available individually. 1. The permanent critic. You always point out flaws and never say thank you. You waste energy defending yourself. 2. Professional victim. You live in a constant state of crisis. You become a psychotherapist without charging a fee. 3. Security supervisor. Innocent questions. Why haven't you answered yet? Automatically evoke feelings of guilt. 4. Conditional praise. Praise is only given when you have fulfilled the duties assigned to you. Do you know any of these people in your life? The statistics are terrifying. 68% of women and 54% of men reported having at least 3 of these people in their inner circle. And what's worse, they aren't bad. They act unconsciously, revealing an inner emptiness that you, in your openness, accept. But here's the truth that changes everything. Jung discovered that projections are only effective when there's someone willing to receive them. When you become conscious psychological vessel, when you temporarily cling to other people's perceptions, knowing they aren't your own, the whole system collapses. Here's a simple yet incredibly effective technique. After an intense interaction, practice deep breathing for 90 seconds and ask yourself, what did I just absorb that isn't mine? Then, exhale it like smoke. You stop being an emotional sponge and become a selective filter. Eduardo's case illustrates this perfectly. This 42-year-old IT manager was overwhelmed by family responsibilities. His mother was neurotic, playing the victim. His sister was dramatic and overly critical, and his friends were opportunistic, only offering conditional approval. He resorted to a 21-day psychological isolation. The result? His mother reduced her calls by 83%, his sister stopped provoking him, and his friends disappeared. Did he regain his energy? He started running, picked up the guitar again, and went on a date for the first time in 8 years. It wasn't magic, but energy sovereignty. Their unavailability does not pose a personal threat, existential threat to others. You're provoking a confrontation that most people avoid their entire lives, facing themselves without an external mirror, the one that has always confirmed their illusions. This confrontation is unbearable for those who have built their identity by denying their inner truths. Hence the exaggerated reactions, accusations of coldness, betrayal, and selfishness. It's not about losing a useful friend, partner, or colleague. It's about losing them. Automatic confirmation system, which reinforced common misconceptions. A study from Yale University confirms the following: emotional unavailability. This reduces manipulation by 67% during the first 4 weeks. People with emotional dependency automatically tend toward easier targets. You don't need to confront them. Your conscious absence is enough. But be prepared. 72% report peak guilt in the 2nd and 3rd weeks. This collective unconscious resists your attempts to personalize it. Are you ready for the crucial question? What if all those times you felt rejected for seeing too much weren't your fault, but inevitable conflicts between an emerging consciousness and collective systems based on a shared unconscious? What if the price of individuality wasn't losing other people, but freeing yourself from relationships that were never real? In the next section, we'll explain why silence can be the most lethal weapon of the human psyche and how it completely transforms the dynamics of your relationship with the world. Prepare to discover the power that resides within you the moment you're asked to speak. The modern world is full of noise. Everyone wants to be heard, respond quickly, win pointless arguments, and prove their point. even at the cost of their peace of mind. But there is a power that few are aware of, and even fewer possess: the power of silence. Not a passive or cowardly silence, but a conscious, strategic, and crystalline silence. A silence that is not absence, but a powerful presence. Carl Jung didn't see silence as a void, but as fertile ground for inner transformation. When you stop reacting, you begin to observe, and through observation, you see patterns that were previously hidden from you. Emotional repetitions, manipulative tactics, cycles of self-sabotage. Silence generates clarity, and clarity is dangerous for those who constantly manipulate you. Have you noticed how some people panic when you don't respond? When you don't explain the situation? When you simply disappear? It's not because they miss you, but because your silence takes away their control. As long as you speak, you're still in the game. Silence completely changes the rules and unsettles those who thrive on your ability to predict your feelings. The tension reached its peak. Finally, you began practicing conscious silence in a toxic relationship. The first few days, embarrassing silence. The second week, provocative messages: "Are you crazy? What's changed? Are you ignoring me?" The third week, absolute drama. Accusations of coldness, betrayal, and selfishness. The fourth week, absolute silence. The other person moved on to another victim. You won without saying a word. This was the first unexpected turn of events, one that few anticipated. His silence was not a passive defense, but rather strategic attack. Get rid of the automatic affirmations that reinforce the illusions of others. In reacting, you unconsciously affirmed, "You're fine. You are who you are. You don't need to change anything." But conscious silence screams the opposite. Look at yourself. I am no longer your mirror. The pace of development is accelerating, and conclusive scientific evidence is emerging. A study conducted by the University of Chicago addresses this issue. Strategic silence studies on negotiation have shown that deliberate silence increases the perception of power by 47%, compels opponents to make concessions by 62%, and improves outcomes by 83%. Negotiators trained in silence close deals 2.7 times more profitable than those who used verbal aggression. This isn't magic, it's pure psychology. Quickly review what happened to you today. That colleague who constantly provokes you in meetings? Next time, smile and remain silent for 7 seconds. Watch them panic. They'll talk more, explain their position, and reach an agreement. You'll win without wasting energy. And the friend who exaggerates crises? Respond objectively and remain silent. They'll reveal the truth themselves. And the friend who tests your boundaries? Remain silent after the provocation. They'll either calm down or reveal their disagreement with you. But then, an unexpected turn of events surprises everyone. The deliberate silence not only unsettles the obvious manipulators, but also worries them. System of collective unconscious, all of this. Jung documented it. Dysfunctional families, toxic corporations, and social groups that survive thanks to implicit agreement. Let's not talk about what everyone already knows. Their silence is destroying these agreements which already exist. Have you ever been fired from your job because you didn't fit in? Have you ever ended a friendship because you took it too seriously? Have you ever been described as cold for crossing basic boundaries? It wasn't your fault, but a breach of the implicit contract that maintains the continuity of social structures. Imagine not seeing what is obvious to everyone else. Their silent acceptance threatens not only individuals but entire systems based on collective denial. Unlock your full potential. Practice systematic silence for 21 days. Week 1, intense guilt. I'm selfish. Week 2, targeted attacks. I've changed. Week 3, collective movement toward achievable goals. Week 4, exquisite silence. Energy returns in a different form, not as a compulsive adrenaline rush but as serene vitality. Lucid dreaming returns. Sharp intuition guides your decisions. The world seems more vibrant, symbolic, and interactive. Tensions reach their peak during inevitable tests. Parents ask, "Why are you so withdrawn?" Friends joke, "Where's the social butterfly?" Work pressure demands results. A turning point. Smile calmly. I'm steering my life toward what's truly important. External discomfort confirms it. You're growing while they're stuck in a vicious cycle. Jung said, "To preserve the spirit, it is necessary to let go of some attachments." The second part of the events explodes like a firework. Silence is not a loss, it is. Spiritual techniques. Buddha remained silent under a Buddhist tree for 49 days. Newton rested under an apple tree. Jesus fasted in the desert for 40 days. Jung built a tower on the shores of a lake to connect with the subconscious. Each of these masters understood that greatness requires contemplation. Their morning silence was part of this sacred process. The electric rhythm continues. You realize that silence is not the absence of movement, but a higher movement. Delete narrative control, immediate indifference. A provocative colleague, 7 seconds of silence, explains the situation. An over-the-top friend, a neutral statement, plus silence, reveals the truth. A fellow student, silence after the provocation, reveals incompatibility or a need for reassessment. The story reaches its climax. When strategic silence prevails, the universe conspires in favor of this event. Synchronization. Jung's ideas arise spontaneously. Books fall into our hands on their own, offering a precise answer. The right people appear. Doors open without any coercion. Jung called this synchronous psychological field. Inner harmony leads to a readjustment of outer harmony. The curse becomes a blessing. Now they demand the highest standards. They are on the cusp of a new era. The next step is not forced. It will arise naturally, like dawn after a long night. But the final revelation is still to come, the one that will transform silence as protection into silence as transcendent spiritual power. Are you ready to discover that your greatest weakness, overreacting, was actually your greatest evolutionary ally, hidden beneath a mask? The final answer is in seconds and the distance. You are on the threshold. Every silence you practiced, every no you dared to say, every conscious retreat you made was not a loss, but a chemical preparation. Carl Jung didn't promise an easy life, but a promise, individual assignment. Become who you truly are, whole and authentic, even if it's difficult. Now is the time to reap the rewards of this inner work and transform it into tangible actions that change your daily life. The practical path is simple, but it requires unwavering discipline. Day 1. The ritual of solitude. 15 minutes without your phone, without distractions. One question: what did I understand today that I didn't understand before? Write down your answers exactly as they are. Don't evaluate or edit them. Day 2. Psychological vessel. After an intense interaction, 90 seconds of diaphragmatic breathing and conscious relaxation. Release what you have absorbed. Day 3. Gradual test. A neutral comment. I've noticed you've gained a lot of weight today. Plus silence. Observe their reaction. Are they curious? Ask more questions. Are they defensive? Walk away immediately. The first week evokes a deep sense of guilt. I'm selfish. The second week brings out attacks. I've changed. The third week reveals a shift as emotionally dependent people seek out available victims. And the fourth week, it's quiet glory. Energy returns in a different form, not as an adrenaline rush, but with a serene vitality, like spring after a storm. Lucid dreaming returns. Sharp intuition guides decisions. Jungian synchronicities appear. Books fall into your hands with precise answers. The right people appear, and doors open without coercion. Consistent daily practice. The Jungian method in 5 minutes. 1. Morning filter. 3 deep breaths. Question: who am I directing my energy to today? 2. Strategic silence. When the next provocation occurs, count to 7 seconds. 92% of people explain their actions. 3. Post-reaction container. Place your hand over your heart. Hold it there for 30 seconds and then let go of the feeling. That's not how I feel. 4. Pattern diaries. 3 lines from that night. What did you consume today? What did you eat? 5. Weekly questionnaire. Build a relationship that involves the gradual disclosure of information. Record the results. The true test inevitably comes in confrontations. The hysterical mother. Why are you so withdrawn? The provocative colleague. Where's the extrovert? The controlling coworker. You're acting strangely. A moment of brilliance. A serene smile. I'm aligning my life with what truly matters. External discomfort confirms inner growth. Jung stated, to preserve the spirit, it is necessary to let go of some attachments. Each breakup confirms that you have freed yourself from emotional captivity. Transformative impact in 90 days. Real proof. Energy plus 247% available for personal creativity. Yale University study on emotional boundaries. Relationship 68%. Automatic transfer of toxins 41%. Deeper bonds. Actuation 237% is the main focus. Harvard College study on strategic silence in negotiations. Self-knowledge. A clearer objective in 83% of cases. Longitudinal studies using Jungian analysis. Let's take Raphael, a 36-year-old manager with an overworked job, a troubled family, opportunistic friends, and a codependent relationship. Raphael implemented the 90-day protocol. The result? He quit his exhausting job. His father assumed financial responsibility for the first time in 20 years. He broke up with his partner, revealing their incompatibility, and a surge of energy led him to found a startup that generated 180,000 Brazilian reais in its first year. It wasn't by chance. It was systematic control over energy, the emotional truth that changes everything. All the guilt you felt for being rejected, all the friendships you lost by overstepping boundaries, all the opportunities you missed through your deliberate silence. None of it was punishment, but a beginning. Every turmoil you experienced was a personal lesson to forge your character. You survived it, and you're still struggling to understand. That resilience in itself is a great victory. The young man whispers, understanding the atonement. By labeling your reactions as mental automation, you pay homage to decades of silent struggle. You didn't break down from feeling, reacting, or giving too much. You broke down. Wake up. The question is not, how can I suppress my sensitivity to fit into society, but rather, can I develop a proactive discipline to channel my sensitivity constructively? An urgent and immediate call. It all starts today. Don't wait for Monday or for motivation or for the perfect moment. Take a pen and paper now. Write one line. I realize that my energy is my sovereignty. I am the one who chooses where it flows. Tomorrow, when guilt overwhelms you through conscious silence, you will remember, this is not an enemy. It is the raw material for rebirth. Sometimes, to silence this truth, you must silence all external voices, including your own self-criticism. So stop. Listen. A pioneer of consciousness is forming within you. When the time comes, you won't have to force yourself to take the next step. It will happen naturally, like dawn breaking through the forest of your soul. If this trip has deeply affected you, and if something has stirred within you, don't let it die here. Court to provide information to those who need it. Comment. Even when used anonymously, emojis are enough. I choose peace. This changes everything. Record and turn on notifications. This isn't just content. It's a community for those who prefer to listen to their soul instead of the collective noise. Because when you transform, the collective consciousness begins to breathe differently. You have already entered a phase of inaccessibility to your holiness. Carl Jung did not teach silence to silence the world, but rather he taught silence to rediscover the self in the midst of collective chaos.